Say hello to your viral era. With Planoly, creators grew their social following by 6 times in just 3 months. Planoly is the only social planning tool you'll need to get inspired, stay organized, and level up your content. And now you can auto-post across Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and Pinterest. Try it free for 7 days at Planoly.com. That's Planoly.com. And for a limited time only, use code CHEERS40 for 40% off all annual plans. Our best deal ever.
This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to this podcast. My name is Tim Mitchell. I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined once again by Jonathan Kuehlein in Mississauga, Ontario.
Hello there!
And surprise, 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 we're joined by Xavier Kuehlein, also in Mississauga, Ontario.
Howdy.
In fact, they're in the same regional vicinity.
Same house. Opposite ends of the house. I mean, really, we couldn't possibly sit in the same room.
But I wasn't going to give longitude and latitude because I could be off by, one millionth of a decimal, and I'm sure Xavier would take, point at that, right?
But by the way, Xavier, if you're going to fill in for Jaime, and no one can really fill his shoes, but if you're going to try, you have to say, how's it going?
Oh, how's it going? And we're also joined by Xavier Kuehlein in Mississauga, Ontario.
How's it going?
How's it going? All right, now we can start the show. Comfortably start the show. All righty. Did I say season 4, episode 23?
No.
Oh. Well, how did I start the show?
Welcome to this podcast, season 4, episode 25.
Those of you transporting at home, it's season 4, episode 23. Anywho, and yeah, so I'll say, the reality is that I'm saying stuff, and it's taking a millisecond for you to hear it, right? And you're responding to it a millisecond later.
Well, it's taking millionths of a second for it to actually go from my mouth and my vocal cords to the microphone, and then transmitted along those wires into my computer, and then right into my hard drive too. But that doesn't matter.
You realize I'm holding my tongue, right? Alrighty. Now, this isn't the physics podcast. It's the More Than Just Code. Or no, it's not More Than Just Code.
No, please don't. How did I end up here? This is like that dream that I've woken up in my underpants at school.
Well, I have a feeling we might get into some physics and some metaphysical physics and stuff like that. And well, especially considering one of the talking points of the show today.
Yep.
That said, alrighty. So let's start off with some fact check. Woo! I didn't even review the fact check. What did I say here?
Oh, we were doing the Flintstones theme song.
Yes, we were doing the Flintstone thing, and the line that we both, oh my God, I can't believe we forgot this, is let's ride with the family down the street through the courtesy of Fred's 2 feet. And then later on in the song, they say the bridge is, someday maybe Fred will win the fight and that cat will stay out for the night.
And that's where he starts banging on the door, yeah.
Throws him outside. Anyway, I've got the link here in the show notes for the lyrics to Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones. Alrighty, and Jonathan Groff plays Agent Smith. Or actually, I should correct that. Now, I mentioned to Jonathan before we started recording that I did see The Matrix Resurrections last night, and I'm just going to say that Jonathan Groff plays Smith.
But not necessarily Agent Smith?
Well...
Ooh! Let's not get spoilery here. Well...
What if it's Kevin Smith?
Okay. We'll talk about The Matrix a little bit later, maybe, and I'm going to try and be as unspoilerific as I can.
But anyway. We're going to see you in 2 days, so yeah, tread lightly.
Yeah, that's true. It could be black and blue by Boxing Day.
That's right.
Alrighty, Jonathan has some fact check for us.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. We talked about last episode how much, in the last few episodes actually, we talked about how much we love the costume design for Discovery.
That's 2 votes against 1.
Oh, you didn't like the new costumes?
Well,
Jaime and I both talked about how much we liked the costumes.
Make your point, and then I'll fill you in on my feedback.
Okay. We some of us on this podcast talked about how much we liked the new costume design for this season of Star Trek Discovery, and we had talked about who was the costume designer. It's Gersha Phillips is her name, and I wanted to give her a shout out because I think that the costume design has been amazing this year. I think I really like the new costume design, and then just everybody's everything, the way the book looks, the way that all of the different characters have looked, the costumes have been amazing. So
you Tim realize you're going to see your mother, my partner, in 2 days as well, right?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so Yeah, the thing my immediate feedback on the costumes is it looks like they skipped a button when they were buttoning them up because the hems are not even. And so, just to prove a point, I showed a picture of Saru and Captain Burnham walking down the hallway. If you remember on the show in this episode, there's a scene where they're walking together, and so I got a really good shot of their entire tunic, as it were, and how the hems don't line up. And Carol was like, "Yeah, no, that looks dumb." And Carol has been doing costume design for I'm going to say
years.
A million years, longer than Star Trek has been around. Let's put it that way.
Oh, right, that's an exaggeration.
Long time. Well, it's true. Well. Yeah, she's been sewing about that long.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Anyway, because her great Aunt Helen would have taught her how to sew back then. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, it just looks odd. And Carol, like her feedback to me before I told her to think about the buttons being skipped was that it just looks like it was a change for the sake of making a change, not for any practical reason. So yeah.
What does she know?
What does she know exactly? Yeah, I'll tell her you said that. No more boxer shorts for Jonathan.
I was going to say, can you wait till after Christmas?
You know what? I've got the perfect revenge. Your next set of boxing shorts are going to have uneven hems.
Uneven hems, yeah, that's great. That's great.
You're welcome. You can thank Gearsha Phillips for that.
Nice.
Anyway, so you have another piece of feedback for us?
Yeah, we were talking about Berserker minus the vowels, the new Keanu Reeves comic book. And I had said there was something like 1 million different covers. It was a bit of an exaggeration, but it wasn't too much of an exaggeration. There's 58 different covers to number 1. 58. Wow. So for you completists out there, you need to have all 58 covers, some of which are like the 1 in 1,000th variant. I was going to
say, like how do you collect them, and which one is the most valuable one now? And
yeah, I mean, really, it's a matter of obscurity, right? The less they made of them, the more valuable it is. And some of them were exclusive to specific vendors. Some of them were sort of raw art as opposed to having the title dress on them and stuff like that. So if you can find the rarest of the rare ones and the most variant of variants, then you have a real treasure on your hands. However, if you're also a completist, which a lot of comic fans can be, I am not one of them, thankfully. Not
anymore.
Well, I have never had a lot of patience for the variant cover thing. The contents of the book is identical. Once you turn off the cover, you get what you get. It's always the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, yeah, of course, there's sometimes I'd love to have, there's definitely so many talented artists out there making beautiful covers. And sometimes you will find some variant that has a really beautiful aesthetic and you want to own it. But the idea of buying 58 copies of the same book just because they have different covers, to me is a little, it's a little nuts, especially when we're talking at like, $5 a book. That's not nothing.
True. I do remember seeing some odd Spider-Man covers back in the day too in your collection.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, it even goes beyond that. Some people insist upon having the Canadian cover price variant and the American cover price variant and the newsstand versions for back when they used to sell them on newsstands versus the comic shop variants. And some people take their collecting very, very seriously. So you almost need to have multiple copies of every book that's been published, 1970s on. It's kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was going to say my comment about the million covers was that we have a metaphysical physics specialist on the show tonight who might take conference with the difference between 1 million and 58. Just putting it out there.
Is that true, son?
I mean, I think all of us agree that the people who use the word literally when they don't mean literally is quite frustrating.
Yeah, I think Rick, Jonathan's friend Rick, says it the best. I think it's, and I'm going to misquote him, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but he says, I could figuratively kill people who say literally wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that right.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to go back to the Facebook and see where he posted that. Anyway, so yeah, and just the last little thing on the fact check. I'm putting on the fact check here because normally this would get signed over to Mike, but Mike's been, busy. We can now get rated by you folks on the Spotify app. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes here, and I'll probably add it somehow to the notes on a regular basis. But yeah, because you can rate us on Spotify, so please do. There was an issue with our Spotify stats. They weren't showing up. We're hosted on Anchor, which was acquired by Spotify sometime last summer, so we should automatically get, the love or whatever. But they weren't showing our stats correctly, and I reached out to tech support, and lo and behold, now I can see how we're doing on Spotify, which is actually surprisingly better than I thought. But yeah, definitely, if you are listening to us on the Spotify app, or even if you just want to go over there and just give us a rating over there, that would be great. It would help people find the Spotcast podcast and all that stuff. Alrighty, and we're going to dive into the headlines. Jonathan, you're up first.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd start with some Star Trek tonight because...
Actually, it's a Jonathan show. Let's sit back and enjoy.
All right, yes. Put up your feet, kids. It's going to be a long night. So, Star Trek Discovery, we are about to talk about episode 6 of season 4 in this episode. But episode 7 is going to mark a bit of an ending because episode 7, which is coming out on December the 30th, is going to be the last episode before the show goes on hiatus again. So we know that they've done this before. They did it in the first season, so there is a precedent for this. And then they have also obviously done this with Star Trek Prodigy because Prodigy went on hiatus as soon as Discovery started. Now Discovery is about to go on hiatus so that Prodigy can come back. And then when Prodigy finishes, then we'll get Discovery back. So all that adds up to is that the 7th episode of season 4 will come on Thursday, December 30th on a streaming platform and or television channel near you. And
wherever you find,
wherever you find your fine Star Trek programming. And then you will have to wait about a month and a half until February 10th for that season to continue. So good chance we're going to end off on some dump kind of moment next week so that we have a little bit of stuff to chew on over the holidays. And while it's on hiatus, then starting on January the 6th, we will get the second half of the first season of Star Trek Prodigy back on TV. And then once Discovery ends, we're actually going to get season 2 of Picard. So Trek.
So the bottom line is we're not going to have any overlapping Trek, but we'll have Trek until... whatever. Season 4 of Spotcast is going to go on for months, right?
Yeah. Stay tuned, kids. You're going to be watching lots of Trek and listening to 3 random chuckleheads talk about it if you tune into us.
Yeah, the season's going to be longer than the year.
And of course, rating all of those episodes 5 stars on Spotify.
That's right.
We need the coverage.
Oh, on Spotify and Apple, and don't forget to rate us on Apple Music or Apple
Podcasts.
Apple Podcast app, yeah. And if you got the time, Google Podcast app as well, too. 5 stars, please. Alrighty.
Are you two done shilling our stuff? Can we?
Yeah.
And go to spotcast.com.
Oh, we have T-shirts too. If you want to go to Teespring, you can get T-shirts as well.
And like cool
stickers.
And we have stickers.
Yeah.
And we have holographic stickers.
Yeah.
Come get your Spotcast merch, kids. That's what everybody's getting for Christmas.
Y'all need my swag.
All right, next up, just get a little update on Spider-Man No Way Home, which, as far as I know, Tim, none of us have seen yet. No, okay, all right, none of us have seen yet. So it did kind of kick butt.
So I did check, I won't say that much.
Yeah, it did kind of kick butt at the theaters, in spite of the rising rates of COVID around the world, the Omicron variant. It did manage a massive opening weekend of $253 million, which is huge by standards of the pandemic. Compared to older numbers, obviously it's not quite as impressive, but for the pandemic, that's a monster debut. And beyond that, it also has a 99% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. And every review that I've seen, and I haven't really engaged with them so much as just sort of glanced to see how it's being reviewed, have been glowing. So seems like a smash, seems like it's very popular, and seems like it's raking in the bucks, which all adds up to an absolute smashing and dashing of my hopes that we might actually get it a little early for those of us that aren't as crazy about going back to a theater right now. It is not coming. They're not going to pull the plug on it out of the theaters because people are still going. We've been checking in, just like you, Tim, we've been checking in this week to sort of see what the audiences have been like for different show times, thinking, well, maybe there's an opportunity that we'll get lucky like we did with Shang-Chi, where there's not very many people in the theater. But it's been crazy. Like every showing in this in our local theater, which is actually a pretty sizable theater, they're playing, dozens of screenings a day in different formats, and it's still packed, which is just a smidge outside my comfort zone. But
it looks like it's been kicked off of IMAX at the theater near me. Like it was. I think the Matrix.
Well, replaced with the Matrix, right? Yeah, that's tricky.
You can still watch it in Ultra AVX and 3D. 3D. I didn't realize we were watching 3D movies. I thought that was, I guess, with COVID that we thought that wearing glasses would be a tricky thing, right?
Yeah, I thought that was really strange because we've seen a handful of movies this fall, none of which have been 3D IMAX. It doesn't seem like 3D IMAX has been a thing, but yeah, I noticed the same thing, that it's showing in 3D, which I would imagine some of the scenes that I've seen in the trailer for Spider-Man would be particularly good, like some of the Doctor Strange magical effects and
well, like I told you, I saw a full screen, like full IMAX screen trailer of that show last week when I went to a movie. What did I go see? Oh, Matrix, the original Matrix, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to look this up because I looked at, you mentioned No Way Home had a particular critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I wanted to look up what that was relative to other movies, and I found Rotten Tomatoes basically has a post about, like, all the MCU movies ranked by Tomato Meter or whatever.
Oh, it's rated from worst to best.
I know, that surprised me, honestly.
Eternals is 47, whatever splats, whatever that is. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's certified rotten.
Is it splats? Oh, like squished tomatoes? Is that the idea?
Yeah, if you score below 50% or 60%, I can't remember what the number is, but yeah, if you score below a certain point, you get the
Thor:
splat.
Dark World. They don't like that one, and they don't like the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk. I have to agree. Ultraman 2, I'm surprised by that one. Ultraman 2 had that what's his name in it? Who was the bad guy in that one?
Sorry, which one?
Wasn't that the one? Iron Man 2?
Iron Man 2? That was Whiplash.
And what was his name? Who's the actor?
Nick
Nolte?
No, the guy from 9.5 Weeks.
Duke Ellington?
I thought the Nick Nolte one, I didn't like that one. Is that Iron Man 3? Nick Nolte?
Nick Nolte? It's not been in a Marvel movie to my knowledge.
Well, who's the antagonist and an older actor? Pretty famous. Oh, don't make me open up.
Robert Redford was in Captain America.
No.
The name I was looking for was Mickey Rourke.
That's who I'm thinking of.
Yes, Mickey Rourke he's Whiplash in Iron Man 2.
And he makes his own robot-y thing or whatever?
Yeah, he makes like the giant sort of robot centurions that attack Iron Man and War Machine. No. Oh, you're thinking of the dude. The dude was Obadiah Stane in the first one. It was the dude, yeah.
Oh, I hated that movie. That's not number 3?
No, that's the first one. That's the original Iron Man. The movie's amazing. Are you kidding?
I don't know which one I'm talking about then. I know I didn't like 2 and 3 as much as I liked 1.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff Bridges is the bad guy in the first one. He wears
they have Black Widow
suit.
in position 20.
Yes.
Really? Wow.
Really?
So we can actually talk about this, or am I just gonna?
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's a podcast, Xavier. We talk about things on podcasts. You think we research all this stuff and talk about it no way, man.
So the list you found for us, Xavier, this is a list based on critic reviews, not people reviews, right?
Yes, and yeah. So again, so I have the list right here. Iron Man, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Avengers Endgame all tied critically at 94%. And number 1 is at 96% Black Panther. I mean, again, I don't know if I agree with the critics or not, but I mean...
You're allowed to disagree with the critics.
Like Thor Ragnarok's 93%. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, 91%. Which, okay, well that doesn't make sense because Spider-Man Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy are also at 92% are somehow rated below it? Okay, this can't be right. Something's in the wrong order here. Scroll... Number 6 is actually 91%, but number 7 and 8 are at 92%. That doesn't make sense. You seeing this? Me?
Yes, I am seeing that. You're right. Maybe it dropped. That's weird. Yeah, no, you're right. Who posted this thing? This is insane.
Maybe it's a dynamic rating, like it's coming from the actual site or whatever. And when was this written? This is probably written pretty soon.
Well, it looks like it's automatically updated. It looks like an editorial.
That's what I mean. Like if it's dynamic, then they haven't dynamically sorted the rating mathematically correctly. Whoever coded this page, holy cow. Go back to Java school.
Well, it looks like the bottom line is that No Way Home is among the highest rated, critically loved Marvel movies, right up there with Endgame and Iron Man, which is a huge praise.
Yeah. Why don't they rate them by... So the tomato is the critics and the splat is the people?
No. The splat is also the critics. In this case, they're not showing us the people's score. They're just showing us the critic score.
So I wonder if there's somewhere on here that's got the people's score.
That's what I was trying to figure out is this the critics? Or I think this is the critics. That was my impression. But
Marvel. How did you stumble across this?
I was like, hey, well, because again, you mentioned it was doing well on Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, hey, I wonder if there's a ranking of all the MCU movies. Like, Googled, like, MCU movies ranked on Rotten Tomatoes, and this was the first one that came up.
Huh.
So.
All right.
You're hired, kid. You got a long future here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? Right. You got to do the J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man now. Now that I've seen that now, I got to, like...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Xavier's trying to catch up now. He started watching the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies in preparation for seeing No Way Home.
Yeah.
I'll pay you $100, kid. Now get out of here.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
two more things before we wrap up our headlines. So, quick one. Michael Keaton, who we know is going to be in the Flash movie that is going to bring together characters from the past, their own sort of DC Universe multiverse story. We know he's going to reprise his role as the 1989 version of Batman, although the older version. He is also signed on now to appear in the upcoming Batgirl theatrical movie, not to be confused with Batwoman, the TV show. This is Batgirl, the Barbara Gordon, I believe, take on the character. They're making a movie for that, and he's going to be also in that, I guess, as an older Bat mentor to Batgirl. Interesting to hear.
This will be Chief Gordon's or Commissioner Gordon's daughter. Sort of
that's
deal.
Right. Yep. So yeah, it's a little more Michael Keaton, which I think is a great thing. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I think he's it's fun to see him back in black.
Did you say iconically played by Von Craig by any chance?
I did not say iconically played by Von Craig.
Okay, just wanted to put that out there. All right, in case you hadn't.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Von Craig, man. Yeah. How many people was she the first crush for? It's her, Ginger, or Marianne, right?
Julie Newmar.
Julie Newmar, yeah. Xavier is now wondering what the hell we're talking about and thinking, wow, you guys are old.
I don't know. Oh, I got some real-time follow-up for you.
Angela Cartwright, I can throw that out there too.
Tomato meter is critics. So because I looked it up, and Eternals is rated at 47% on the ranking there, and that is the critical rating, not the audience score. So that is what the critics thought, not what the audience thought.
Right.
Just to confirm.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
That's what I'm here for.
No, that's what Jonathan's here for.
Yes, guys.
The apple didn't fall far from the tree, folks.
Some might say we're a bit of a pedantic family, but I don't see it. All right.
And in the comics corner.
Yeah, this was interesting. So the company Dark Horse Comics, which publishes lots of books that you've heard of that you probably didn't know were Dark Horse Comics, like Sin City and The Goon, and for a long time published Star Wars comics and Buffy and, Hellboy and all kinds of stuff, has been sold. They have been sold to Embracer Group, which is it says that Dark Horse Comics is the third largest publisher in the U.S., according to this article from IGN.com. And they've been acquired by Embracer Group. Embracer is a video game company. So interesting that this has happened. I wasn't aware that this was something that was pending. It just sort of dropped into my news feed this week, and I thought, that's kind of a bizarre move. But as they say in here, Dark Horse owns over 300 intellectual properties. So there's lots of stuff for them to mine in there that could be potentially good content for a video game producer. And maybe there's like a synergy opportunity there, but I'm not sure what the long game is there. I'm not sure what the rationale is for a video game company owning a comic book company.
Yeah, but it could also be like the movie rights and stuff like that too. Like Frank Miller, obviously, he's like 300 and Sin City and but that's a big name. I'm
also not sure. So I know. So one of the benefits of working away from the big two, which is Marvel and DC, is that in a lot of circumstances, there are better intellectual property rights for creators. That is to say, if you work for a smaller publishing company, you're more likely to own a larger percentage of the IP you create. In some cases, you own it wholesale, and they just take a percentage of the sales. So Image Comics that's the foundation of Image Comics. I'm not sure what Dark Horse's IP relationship is to its creators. So I don't know how much they are able to sort of have tied into this kind of sale. I think I'd be really curious to know that. But it does say in here that there are currently more than 40 projects ongoing with Netflix, Amazon, Sci-Fi, Sony, MGM, Universal, Warner, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. And as you pointed out, Tim, like, Sin City's a well-known product. Hellboy's a well-known product. There are lots of books that come from Dark Horse that people know. It's just a matter of whether or not they can continue to license those out or do that through this acquisition.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's it for the headlines.
Yeah, without that Jaime Lopez guy just gabbing away all the time, we got to the main part of the show really quickly this week.
I'm sorry, should I be gabbing and gabbing?
No. You obviously don't listen to the show much. Or lately.
You're doing
an
excellent Jaime impersonation, actually.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Sitting there being quiet.
Yeah, pretty much.
And they're just coming in off the top ropes, like some sort of like 1980s wrestler too. He just comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, high flying act. He's great.
Jaime?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was one thing I was going to say before we dive into this thing here. I forgot what it is now. It'll come back to me.
Okay.
All right. I know what it is. Yeah, no, the Spockies, everybody. The Spockies
I put that in the thing at the end.
Did you?
You want to put it in the headlines, or you want to do it at the end? I put it at the end of the watch list.
Let me just say this about the Spockies. We're waiting till Jaime comes back next week to reveal the Spockies. We've gotten a number of people who have entered their picks, so you've got another week at least to get, from the time you listen to the show till the end of the week, to get middle of the week, I guess, to get your picks in for the top, movies of movies and stop yawning, movies and. Thank God you're on your own track. That's all I gotta say.
I'm tired. I've been working like 9 hours today on my feet all night.
Well, don't worry. You can have a nap when Jonathan talks about Star Trek in a few minutes. Yeah. All right. Anyway, yeah. So what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So top movies, top TV shows. We asked some questions about the streaming services and how you've been consuming movies over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But so get your votes in, get your picks in, and join us next week for the reveal.
Now,
but in the meantime,
hang on. This is where I want to throw it over to Xavier quickly, because I know Xavier's cast his ballot, and you did have some criticisms. So why don't you let us know what you think of the Spockies so far?
Well, number one, there's too many options. Number two, there's not enough options. There's too many best movies, best TV shows, all the big categories. There's like way too much stuff to pick from there. But best actor and best actress is like way less by comparison. Like, I don't get it. Like,
so would you have us pick like the top person from each one of those things and put them in there?
I would just say go one way or the other. I mean, you've given me like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 choices for best actor, but like 15,
8 or
17
10,
choices for best new TV show. Best new TV show. There's like 25 for best TV show.
I defy you to look at those lists and tell me who from the things that aren't on there are worthy of an award. I will say there was a little editorializing as I was making the lists, because I looked at a few of them. I'm like, I'm not putting that person on there. No way.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I did look at it. I did consider that it was. I mean, don't forget, I had to enter this into a form. I'm going to teach Jonathan how to do this next year, but it's not that hard. But for me, I found it was way too long. But just to give you an example, Xavier, like I did at the end, I added in the questions about how you've been consuming movies, just for curiosity's sake, and then I put streaming services, right? Well, and collect them all as our running jokes. I've got in alphabetical order. I've got them: Apple TV, Cable, Crave, Discovery Plus, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, HBO Max, Hulu, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Peacock, and Prime Video, Amazon Prime Video. And the thing is, like, I didn't have to put Discovery in, and I didn't have to put ESPN, because I thought I'm never going to pay for those, or I'm never going to watch those, right? And sure enough, we got votes for those. So
I mean, I guess more my thing is just like, again, like best actor, you've given us 7 options, like relative to the amount. And again, like some of them I'm like, I not necessarily would have voted for, but like ones I might have considered, that weren't there.
Yeah.
Like Invincible, like J.K. Simmons was great in Invincible.
For voice acting, yeah.
Okay, but that's so fine. So then we should have one for
Yeah,
best
we could
voice
have a voice acting
right?
section too.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's a good
I
number
said-
of them that were voice acting shows, that were animated shows.
I said afterwards that, yeah, maybe the best animated series might have been a good category. We can always consider that for future consideration.
So we've also been very inclusive on this show in the last little while. If you watched anywhere, the last 2 seasons clearly of Star Trek Discovery has forced our hand at that. But we got to the best actor and best actress part, and I said to Jonathan, "Where do we put Blue Del Barrio, and where do we put the kid that plays Gray?"
Ian, yeah.
Do
Ian
they get
Alexander?
their own category now, or what's the story?
Well, and then we get back into the murky waters that so many award shows are coming to, which is, do you get rid of gender pronouns as far as the categories? Do you put them all in one big group, which then is it just simply best performance in a film, best performance in a TV program, and the list gets longer? The problem is that opens a huge kettle of fish, because if you suddenly have nothing but male Caucasian winners in all these categories, people are going to lose their marbles justifiably.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh, we do have a non-white person on this list. One.
No, there should be multiple. I mean, I know for the actress category in particular, there was a really strong group of diversity in there. I mean, Gemma Chan and
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I was looking at the white male actors.
Oh yeah.
List, but I realized there's 2 on there.
Yep.
It's not bad. That's only what's 2 out of 7, Xavier? Is that like going in as 15%?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, come on, Detmer, you got the math here. Come on.
It's 28.5714286%.
Well, I guess it's better.
For those
than,
of you transporting it home.
Most of the exactly. I mean, and so I asked one of my friends who's a science fiction writer to hi John. He doesn't have to listen to the show, so don't worry about it. But to pick, like he said, the best TV show was the hardest one to pick, right? Like, because where do you go? I mean, MODOK's not going to get my vote because I don't even know what that is, right? But Sweet Tooth, I haven't got a chance to watch it yet,
Mm-hmm.
So there's just too much time. And I started watching Wheel of Time, and I got bored within 5 minutes and stopped watching it.
Yeah, I haven't gone past the first episode.
We didn't put Witcher on here.
I wasn't sure about that. Somebody flagged that to me, but I don't think Witcher actually premiered this year. I think it was actually last year.
Oh, that's the rule? Okay.
Yeah, because I think, for a new series it has to debut this year, but I think it has to have had new episodes this year in order to qualify for best show, right? I mean, some people may have discovered it this year. I'm just watching a Luke Cage series on Netflix that came out like 4 years ago. That doesn't mean it's qualified for an award just because I'm the one watching it now, right?
Yeah, the best TV show one. You have to scroll twice on the screen to get the whole list in there.
Yeah, but again, it's a really tough competitive category, and again, it speaks to it too. Like if you look at that compared to the movie listings that we've made up of best movies that fit our genre, there wasn't a lot of movies really, because movies didn't even come back into the theaters until May, and really for us, we didn't get back to a theater until autumn almost. So there wasn't a lot of movies to make up a massive list there, whereas in years past, I mean, again, if you look at that list of movies that are scheduled for 2022, the most anticipated movie category, that's usually the number of movies that we had to look forward to, which is a good 20 or so movies to pick from.
Sure. Yeah, and well, even like I made a best Trek TV show thing because I thought I could make the TV show shorter by taking Trek out of that equation because this is a Trek podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once I did that, then I thought, well, should I take the Star Wars stuff out? And then then maybe the best show that starts with the letter S. I don't know, but but then nobody would vote for Superman and Lois. That would be totally not fair.
Well, I mean, some of these are tricky. Even on the high end of that scale, if you're following the Disney Plus stuff or even the stuff that we talk about, again, Hawkeye versus Loki versus WandaVision, these are some tough choices you have to make. And yeah, picking one, it's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be really making you think about what you want to put your ballot on. So next week, when we actually reconvene to talk about this, I think we can all sort of share our thoughts and our votes. But yeah. Also, someone in this house wouldn't share his ideas with me,
I don't want to spoil it.
Well, and of course, because I have access to the poll, I actually can see the answers that are coming in, and I'm surprised by some of them, but not surprised by some of them. But and of course, the ones where they didn't vote what I voted for are completely wrong, so that's fine. But
well, now you sound like a Kuehlein. I don't know what to tell you.
It's like I always say, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, however wrong it may be.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's entitled to my opinion.
Of course.
All right. Anyway, that's what my
okay,
says.
One last thing. You spelled Cowboy Bebop wrong. It's not Bebop, it's Bebop. And
I didn't spell it. That was copy and paste, so I copied and pasted what your father, the writer, professional writer, put in there.
It's Bebop, not Bebop. And on the poll, it was spelled right correctly once.
It's already been fixed.
The other time, as the only other anime fan on this podcast, because Jaime's not here.
What?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You don't watch anime, do you? No.
Me?
No.
I used to watch cartoons when I was a kid, yeah.
Okay, but we're talking about modern anime.
Yeah, like...
No, I know what you're talking about, exactly.
I feel like I gotta stick up, even though that wasn't actually anime, because it's the new one. But
it was correct. Somebody already pointed that out earlier in the week, and you probably got to the form before I corrected it.
All right.
One word,
but I didn't
canceled.
read every detail of it. And actually, I had it proofread by somebody else who's on the show who shall remain nameless, but who didn't catch his own typo.
Epic fail. You lose.
Anyway.
Kids these days, Jesus.
I know, eh? Are you saying that your father's flawed? Welcome to adulthood.
Everybody's flawed.
Exactly.
And on that note, let's talk about Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I was going to say Jonathan will just be crying in the corner for 5 minutes. Anyway.
No, I'm just going to quickly do what parents do. I'm going to divert and move on.
Yeah, so this is the Star Trek Discovery section of the show where we talk about that thing, which is called Star Trek Discovery. What's the episode of the show called?
Ooh, that's a good one. I didn't even look it up.
The Black Hole. The Construct. Is it called Star Trek Discovery The Construct? My Matrix tie-in. Do you get it?
The
Stormy Weather? Stormy Weather.
Stormy Weather. Of course it is. It's always named after some bad... Didn't they do that last... What was the one they did a couple of years ago where they were singing some song and some Blue Eyes, right?
Well, that was the end of Picard, right?
Wasn't that called Blue Eyes or something, the episode?
No, it wasn't. It was like an Arcadia Ego or something like that. It was the whatever... I can't remember, but...
You know what I mean? Like they were playing that song or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it's like, what they do? The one I didn't like is in Battlestar Galactica when they all started singing All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what?
Hey, Xavier hasn't seen that, so don't spoil it.
Oh, sorry.
It's on my list.
I mean, statute of limitations here.
All right. Well, he's 18.
Already?
In fairness, he was in diapers when the first episodes came out. So
I guess.
I mean, to be fair, I was in kindergarten when Firefly came out.
Well, and you made your way to that, but then you've only had to make it through a whopping 13 episodes in a movie. So yeah.
And I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, Tammy.
Right. Yeah.
Firefly?
Oh, Firefly was awesome. I loved it. Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, Tammy, once she started watching it, she couldn't stop. You know, it was like a bag of potato chips.
Because it's good. It's really good. The characters are very likable. And some of them are very not likable in exactly the right ways. And, yeah.
I mean, Firefly is so good that I have watched every show that Nathan Fillion has done since then.
Have you watched Big Mouth?
Not yet.
He's a really good character on Big Mouth. He plays a version of himself that is spectacular.
All right. This all has nothing to do with Star Trek, by the way.
Nope.
Or does it?
We'll see.
It does.
All right. So back to the real reason we're here. Jonathan, take it away.
All right. I'll give you the facts and nothing but the facts. So we pick up the episode leading off with the crew of Discovery getting ready to investigate this space anomaly, this subspace rift left by the DMA. So Burnham is making her family tree based on the family tree that we saw in last week's episode, and then they
is there a discount on ancestry.ca this week?
Apparently it just caught on there at $5 a month, and you can subscribe. So they're going to go check out this subspace rift left behind by the DMA. Book is still sort of fighting passive-aggressively with Burnham about, he wants to go check in with the courier network that they worked with when she first came to the future and see if they have any leads. But they don't. So they give you the ground rules of this episode right off the hop. You're not allowed to use the spore drive. You can't jump in. There's going to be Adira is going to be on the bridge, and there's going to be, you know, this inside this thing, they lay out the expectations. Well, the Enterprise saw this when they went inside a subspace anomaly, and this is what the Voyager saw inside a subspace anomaly. And when they go inside the anomaly, there's nothing. It's pitch black. They can't find anything. Nothing happens, and just into the nothing. And so they launch one of the dots, one of the little robots. The dot goes out there and screams as it is disintegrated in a somewhat unsettling scene. They figure out that the subspace pocket that they're in has actually sort of been contaminated. It's essentially a tar pit, and they're stuck in it, and it is slowly condensing downwards and towards them, and they can't find the way out. So here we have our premise for the whole episode. How the hell do they get out of this little pocket of nothing when they can't find the door?
So they're in the trash compactor, in other words, right?
Pretty much.
Right.
But no R2 and C-3PO to open the door for them.
Right.
So we come back after the opening credits, and they decide, okay, well, let's try something different. We won't launch a dot, we'll launch a flare. So they launch this flare out there to see if they can match the speed that the dot was going and figure out, you know, how long it takes for it to get there. And Detmer, who we did not know till now is like apparently a math prodigy, turns around and says, well, if this took, you know, this number of point seconds to get there, and then this took this many point seconds to get there, then the difference is this, and therefore it means that it's shrinking at a rate of this, and therefore we'll have come in contact with the ship and kill us all in 31 minutes, which I thought was pretty impressive.
33 minutes. It was 33 minutes. 33 minutes.
There you go.
But she is an augmented human, don't forget, right?
She is, although I still am not clear exactly what the level of her augmentation is, but I thought it was pretty impressive anyways. So we cut back down to Gray, who is still getting used to his body, and starts having a conversation with Zora because he's sort of stuck there by himself. Adira has gone to the bridge. Everybody else
on 10 forward. He's on 10 forward,
yeah,
right?
He's in the bar. The whatever it is, 9.5 forward. And he is down there, and he senses that Zora is very anxious, which is very unusual considering Zora is a sentient computer. And so he engages Zora in this game that he and Adira were playing during the opening sequence, and is trying to sort of find a way to calm down Zora. When he says, "Would you like to play a game?" my mind immediately went to war games, which I thought was very funny. So we then go back to the crisis at hand. They realize that, you know, that they can't seem to find a way out. They're trying to figure their way out of it. In the end, they say, okay, listen, you know what? It's time to pull out. Burnham pulls the plug and says, you know what? We're not going to find anything here. This is too dangerous. Let's get the hell out of here. And they try and find their way out. They can't. She says, okay, let's fire up the spore drive. I know we're not supposed to, but let's fire up the spore drive and get out of here. Stamets book volunteers to go into the spore drive because we now know that he can connect with the mycelial network, as we saw last season. And Stamets says, okay, sure, all right, you have a turn doing this thing. And of course, it doesn't work out that way because, as they established the rules before we came in, you can't actually do that. He connects to the mycelial network. They try jumping out, doesn't work. He ends up basically getting feedback from the connection to the network and shock with electricity. And when he wakes up, he starts having visions of his theoretically deceased father, who is sort of bawling him out and actually mentions his real name, which is Tarek.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote it down as it was on the subtitles, so Tarek. We go back to Gray and Zora, and Zora has slowly started calming down and realizes that there is something on the hull. And it's, you know, unfortunately, it's a little too late. We got, Dr. Pollard, who we hadn't seen in a while. It was nice to see Dr. Pollard back. We saw Dr. Pollard going down there trying to help with the evacuation. Unfortunately, it was a little too late, and one of the crew members, Cortez, gets sucked out into the nothingness. And so the ship is being damaged. But Gray realizes in this moment that once Zora was sort of distracted and not focusing on its anxiety, should we call Zora her? That's a good question.
They do in the show. They refer to Zora as a she, her.
As a she? Yeah, I guess. All right.
Theoretically, it's a sentient being with emotions and.
Yeah, well, she says she's a sentient organism inside of a computer. Right? So.
I mean, is Siri a she? I guess
you can set Siri to be a he. You can set Zora.
Depends on what country you're in. Yeah.
My Siri's an Irish man, and I quite like that. He's really funny.
So we end up with this sort of epiphany from Gray, who is, a very intuitive person and recognizes that something is sort of happening here, that Zora has this sort of greater awareness that they can use to their advantage. And so he runs up to the bridge. Why he runs up, I don't know. Again, we talked about this. Even in this episode at the beginning, they use the turbo lift. Again, why use the turbo lift if you can teleport everywhere? However, he dramatically enters the bridge and says, hey, we need to send a signal. We'll do this. It's going to work. Let's try this. We cut back to have another scene between Book and his dad. His dad is this sort of hypercritical person who is sort of speaking for what seems to be Book's subconscious, which is, hey, Burnham doesn't trust you. Burnham's going to always pick your crew over you. You should be hunting down the people who did this, which again is all the things I think we think are going on inside Book's head. Back to the bridge, Owo is realizing there's going to be these major problems in engineering, decides that she wants to go help. Saru basically shuts her down and says, no, you sit down at your station and you get your work done, and that'll pay off a little bit later on. Burnham and Gray and Zora are trying to figure out, how this thing works. And they figure out that the signal that they're tracking, the particles that they're tracking, now that they figure out how Zora can track this stuff, the particles originate from the Great Galactic Barrier. Tim, did your mind immediately go where my mind went on the Great Galactic Barrier?
Barrier Reef?
No.
Space, the Final Frontier?
No. Star Trek V, the worst Star Trek movie ever. The Great Barrier. That's where Sybok, Spock's brother, takes them in Star Trek V to the Great Barrier at the end. That basically
to find you know who.
To find you know who. That's right. So. As soon as they mentioned the Galactic Barrier, I was like, oh no Sybok appearances, no. Anyway, the way that it plays out, that's the only reference we get to that. I'm sure that will come back around. But in the meantime, they decide, okay, yes, we can figure out these particles. We can use, basically, they say, it's kind of like this ancient 20th century technology called sonar. Hey, convenient plot twist. They decide to use it. They basically send out this signal. It bounces off. They actually use a little bit of echolocation, and they figure out, okay, this is how we can do this. But unfortunately, they also figure out there's not enough time to get everybody out, or get the ship out before everybody would basically be cooked, because the shields would come down, the ship will be barbecued, and they'll all get killed. Then they have the great idea, hey, what if we actually just lock people inside the pattern buffer in what I'm going to call henceforth the Scotty maneuver, which we did see in Star Trek The Next Generation, where they discovered Scotty when he was stranded on a planet. He put himself inside the pattern buffer and was there for, I can't even remember how long, 70 years, something like that.
80 years.
Yeah.
80 years. Yeah.
And so as they're preparing to do that, Owo goes to Saru and basically says, listen, I'm really sorry. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to abandon my post, but I hate the feeling of being helpless. I had to watch one of my friends die when I was younger, and all I really wanted to do was find a way to help. And this is, it just sort of triggered me, and I really wanted to do this. They have a very nice, oh, of course, it's no problem. And then we get Book and his dad again. Book basically figures out, okay, listen, either you're real and you're yelling at me, and that means it's a good thing, because that means that you're a spirit, and a spirit means that the spirits of my other family, who I actually like, will also be out there, and that I really like. Or you're my subconscious and I'm going crazy. But he chooses spirits, and then his dad sort of basically disappears out of him. Book then has sort of got that cleared out of his mind, goes to see Burnham and say, I love you, I'm taking the cat and I'm getting out of here. He goes into the pattern buffer. For some reason, again, Burnham's the last sort of person stuck. She puts on her spacesuit. She's up on the bridge. They're trying to find their way out, and they end up turning off the life support. She has, which as Xavier and I talked about while watching this, just apparently means the lights. Just turn off the lights. That's the life support.
All the beer's gonna get too warm. That's it. Just the beer's gonna taste awful.
Yeah.
They can replicate more beer.
Yeah, exactly. Why is there even a bar anyways? Like, what? It's just like, and again, they showed the bar. There was alcohol behind the bar, and yet, why? Oh,
because synthahol is different than alcohol.
Right, but where would they have gotten the real alcohol, and why is it just sitting there on the shelf?
From the Romulans.
That's, yes.
All right.
Romulan ale.
Right.
For visiting Romulans.
I just, whatever. Doesn't make sense to me.
So Zora's having another existential crisis. Burnham is like, listen, you gotta sort of get your stuff together here, computer lady.
That reminded me of Data with the emotion chip.
Exactly, right? Yeah, I mean, and it did actually, in my mind, it sort of led to are we inevitably going to see Zora turned into a physical form? That was where my mind went, because it did feel very Data-esque. The whole is cooking. Burnham is cooking. Everything's going wrong. The shields are down, and Zora offers to sing a song to Burnham in order to distract her from the pain and heat she's feeling, and decides to sing the old standard, Stormy Weather, hence the title. And the last thing that Burnham sees is they're sort of, almost on their way out, but she sort of says, hey, Zora, when we get to the other side, you have to let the crew out of the pattern buffers. Let's get this good. Burnham closes her eyes. It goes dark. Burnham opens her eyes. She sees Culber. She's fine. She's all good. The whole crew is all safe, with the exception of Mr. Cortez, who went flying off into space. And they're back inside of a Starfleet repair station where they're getting the ship put back together using programmable matter. They then have a nice little sort of ending scene where we see Burnham finishing the family tree that she was working on with all of her extended family in there. And Zora says that she wants to build one for her family. And so she makes this gigantic tree. Remember kids, it's not the size of the tree that matters. And builds this gigantic tree that actually has all these branches, and all the branches have the different crew members that serve on Discovery. Oh, what a lovely little bow we wrapped.
Including Tilly.
Including Tilly, yes. Yeah. So that is the end. All right, gentlemen. Questions? Thoughts?
Oh, yes. I do have a note here that I looked up Annabelle Wallace plays Zora. She also played the voice of Zora in Calypso, which again is in the future, she didn't have a corporeal body. So although you're right, after Picard and Gray, we certainly could have a corporeal body, right? So
yeah.
But interesting, the same. I just had to look up and see if the same voice actor. There was a different actress who played her as a dancer. Apparently she dances in Calypso. I don't remember that part, but
yep.
So then she does have a corporeal body, right?
Yeah, I don't know. This seemed like a bit of a. I guess you can't say any episode is sort of a waste of time, because it does advance the whole, Book, his anxiety over losing his planet. We get some of that. We get a little bit of the relationship between Book and Stamets. We get a little bit more about Gray developing, his own identity outside of being sort of attached to Adira. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of sort of character development, but all things being equal, this was kind of a nothing episode. Kind of.
Yeah, well, did they learn anything about this anomaly thing?
They learned that it came from outside of the galaxy. That's kind of important. And that somehow it was from Book's brain? I don't know.
Well, yeah, because when Book gets zapped, it leaves a little bit of residue, these particles that they can then use to scan. That's how they end up sort of scanning their way out. But the big sort of ta-da of the whole thing is that they now know that it's not a known entity doing this to them, and I think that was sort of where we were going coming off last week's episode, where Book just wants something to punch, and they were sort of going through the list of who potentially it could be. Now at least we have a sense of it is something we maybe have not seen before. It is something new. It is something different, which is kind of refreshing in that way too. It's not just going to be, oh, by the way, it's some plot by some alien race or villain that we've seen before. It does seem like they're trying to do something else, which is exciting.
So here's the question. Did Tarka know it was from outside the galaxy?
Well, I suspect if Tarka knows anything, he will gladly tell everyone about it next week, because that guy's a massive tool.
I mean, again, because he was like, oh, I know more than you. Like, I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
I missed him. Was he in the show this week? Okay.
Yeah, that was a bit of a weird. I mean, I think the knock on is supposed to be that he puts these ideas in Book's head last week. This week, the payoff is that Book has this conversation with his spirit dad or subconscious that are bringing up some of the sort of suspicions and concerns that he has about the way Burnham is doing things, the way Starfleet's doing things, and the way that they are or aren't rushing things. But all things being equal, again, not a bad episode. There's no such thing as a bad episode, more or less. But it just didn't really move the needle very far.
That said, though, this episode where they go into this place where none of their sensors work, none of their equipment works, they can't see what's going on out there. It's very akin to an early, like an original series, because that's the kind of conundrums that they would get into. These can't get out of it sort of situations. Although they were only meant to be like 40 minutes long, and they really didn't have like arcs like that went beyond. They had character arcs, but they didn't have story arcs, right? So it was kind of Trekky in that sense, in that it was, like they're in. It's sort of a Twilight Zone episode. How do you get out of the situation where you have no sense of where you are? I mean, like.
Apparently, it's rely on 1980 or 20th century technology. Sonar.
Yeah. So where are the dolphins when they need them?
That's right.
But I mean, but like you said, I think you said earlier that it was like a blob of black tar that they kind of entered into. I mean, like, if you fall into a ball of black tar that's obviously large enough to contain you, how do you know which way is up or out or back, right?
Yeah.
So there isn't really an exit. So I kind of wonder how they managed to actually get out of this situation, right?
Yeah.
Like when they were driving. And that was the question I was going to ask too. I forgot this one. Did Burnham have a seatbelt in the captain's chair?
Nope.
No.
And do they not have fire extinguishers on the Starship?
Apparently not.
Discovery?
We were joking about that too, because at one point she's doing the like hero walk where they slow motion walk. She's walking towards the bridge, and you get the slow motion hero walk. And I mentioned to Xavier, why is everything on this ship just firing sparks out of it? Like, what? How badly made are these things?
Like the ceiling panels just have sparks coming, like for no exactly. I was just going to say that myself. Like,
Yeah.
Like, is it that badly put together that everywhere there's like electrical shorts? I mean, you would think by the time they got around, they would have figured out insulation by then, right?
Also, does it not just make you think, like, why doesn't everybody who works in the ship wear a helmet or a hat? Because clearly you're at risk of getting burns on your scalp at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know, when they cut away when she was singing Stormy Weather, like the bridge equipment was actually in flames.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we saw a huge swath of the hull go flying at one point too.
That's true. Yeah, and also the part where Zora wakes up and realizes that there's that did you talk much about that scene where Zora kind of goes, "Hey, wait a second," like Hal from 2001. Oh, I think that thing's gonna fail. You better alert somebody. And
yeah,
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Turns out to be nothing.
Yeah, sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
And earlier in the thing when he discovers that there's something wrong and they go and replace the part and then they test it and there's nothing wrong with it, and then he says, well, I think we should put it back in and let it fail. At which point Frank says to Dave, like, but the HAL 9000 has never made a mistake before. Now what? Yeah.
Always the dilemma.
Trial by fire. In this case, literally.
But so the thing about it is like, so this episode in that sense was very, very akin to like a 60s or even the Pulp Fictions from the 60s, 50s, and 70s, or not in that order necessarily, but you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of way sci-fi was written. It was sort of like this weird conundrum and how do you get out of it kind of deal, right? I remember when I was a kid, I had these series of books we had to read in school, and I used to love the science fiction ones. And the idea was that you're a spaceman, and then you're on a spacewalk, and you somehow let go of the spaceship that you're connected to, and you start drifting away. And you've got your tool belt with you and your hammer and stuff like that. And like, how do you get back to the ship? How do you get back to the thing you're at? And the solution was you throw your hammer away from you, like away from the ship.
Yep.
And that inertial energy will make you drift towards the ship, right? So those kind of short little mental essays or exercises on physics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of, to me, was this sort of, episode, like, the situation they're in is completely unsolvable with the equipment that they have, right?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for dude remembering sonar, and did that actually work for them? I didn't quite catch
that's
that.
what they ended up using to find their way out. Yeah.
Right. So they do find the hole in the tar wall.
Yep.
Okay.
But did they go to Stephen Hawking's party? Because I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of this missed opportunity there. Like I said, that's time travel, not black hole travel. But although I guess, I mean, isn't the idea that theoretically a black hole bends space-time? So maybe you could travel through time in a black hole? Do we know yet? We don't know.
I say we put you in charge.
Yeah. Time to go write my doctoral dissertation.
No.
Why Captain Burnham should have taken the crew to Stephen Hawking's party.
At the end of time.
Yeah. All right. We're not talking about Hawkeye this week, are we?
Yeah, I guess we'll touch on it to say the Hawkeye finale was on this week. We will probably loop back on that one next week when we have Jaime Lopez Jr. to come in here and share his wit and witticisms on it. But maybe we can ask for a spoiler-free thought from Xavier while he's here.
Was good. Much punch kick.
Much punch kick. Indeed, son. Much punch kick.
There was arrows. There were some really interesting arrows. There were some arrows that were too dangerous. They may have been deployed.
I thought you would be particularly excited about the label maker use in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Dymo. Yeah, so I have a question, and I don't know if we can we talk about, what's his name? Bullpen?
Kingpin?
Pitbull? Kingpin. Thank you. Yeah, Kingpin.
Big Willie?
I haven't watched Daredevil. Is it a spoiler to say that he seems to have powers?
He doesn't. He does not have powers.
He's just huge.
He's just an incredibly large human being, muscular to a point beyond most people.
Which physically is impossible.
He's basically the Hulk all the time.
Yeah.
But mobster.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they don't really, I mean, I will admit, Xavier has seen, so he'll have some insight here. Xavier's seen Daredevil Season 3. I have not watched it. That's on my holiday to-do list. But in the comic books iterations...
There's only 3 seasons of Daredevil?
Yes, and they're all worth watching.
Oh.
Yeah. He's, in the comic book version, he is supposed to be akin to sort of a sumo. He's just supposed to be this wall of muscle to the point where he's not unkillable, but damn near.
Well, see, this is the thing that, like, to me, I mean, human beings are pretty fragile. I mean, that's the whole concept behind superheroes, right? Is that they're not, they're either from another planet or they have skills and survival capabilities beyond normal human beings, right? Mm-hmm. So, and the boys take it to the extreme where, what's that other? There's a Will Smith movie too where he's
Hancock,
yeah. Where what happens if you have superpowers and you go totally evil, like bad, like Magneto and the gang in the X-Men series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so when there's a scene where he gets shot in the chest with an arrow and he just kind of knocks it out of the way, right? Like, that doesn't hurt me kind of thing. And, he kind of gets blowed up at one point and gets hit by a car, and all of these things don't seem to faze him. And that's why I thought to myself, I wonder if he's like Jessica Jones in that he can survive these kind of, minor irritants that would basically debilitate most of us, right?
Mm-hmm. And my question too is, throughout this whole thing, and it wasn't really, I didn't notice as much to the last episode, but how does Kate Bishop not just go by? Like, she gets hit by a lot of stuff. Like, she gets blown up, she gets punched by Kingpin. Yeah. Like, that would probably not keep a lot of you. Like, even if you kind of put like it's just a TV show, it's all fictional. Like, she's not supposed to be like some sort of like buff, ripped, really strong. Like, she's just like, I am good archer person and I am capable of these basically, like, and yet again, well,
she is supposed to be like a Olympic caliber athlete.
Okay, but like
but an Olympic caliber athlete that gets thrown across the room and hits a wall is still going to go, like, not going to be able to run in the next race.
Well, again, like when she's fighting Yelena, like, she gets like hardcore kicked in the ribs and it literally just like falls over, gets up like half a second later, keeps walking and fighting. Like, that's not realistic. Even if you were in like peak physical shape, if you're a professional athlete.
Well, I guess it's MMA kind of skills, because they do take a pounding, those guys.
Oh, MMA, still, like, I don't know.
Well, and again, I think the idea is she's supposed to be so adrenalized too, because if she fails, Clint dies, right? And so, it's the whole lift a car off a kid thing, right? If you know that if you fail, you're going to be responsible for a death. Obviously, you can dig deep, but again, take it with a grain of salt. This is a comic book come to life. There's only going to be a certain measure of reality. Yeah.
Okay.
But
looking forward to our review next week. That's all I got to say.
So now you've got you whet your appetite. You can come back and hear a little bit more.
Come back for the Spockies. Come back for Hawkeye.
Oh, and next week we're gonna have one more thing, which we'll talk about on our watch list.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Firefly season 2.
Keep the dream alive. Can't stop the signal.
Yeah.
No power in the verse.
Yeah. So. Yeah, let's jump into the watch list. So I'm looking at this link that I put here, and I watched this at the beginning of the week, and I'm trying to remember what the heck... Oh, yes, right. The reason why I posted this here is because, we talk about the dark matter anomaly, or DMA, for those of you who are transporting at home. And I stumbled across a BBC documentary, and there's a number of them, actually. I watched this one. It was on BBC TV last week. I just happened to have the TV on when I was working on something else, and this came on, and they're talking about dark matter. Apparently 70% of the universe is made up of dark matter. Did you know that?
I did not.
I did not.
Yeah, so this is a real thing. It's not just something made up for a TV show on Space Channel, right? So a fascinating little documentary. Unfortunately, the YouTube link here, I couldn't find a link to it on actual BBC, because I know that BBC has an iPlayer thing. You can watch stuff in the UK, or if you own a VPN, you could probably figure it out. But
this podcast does not condone any illegal or malicious activities.
No, we don't. But so somebody's posted this video onto YouTube, and I guess they played with the contrast so much that I guess that it gets past the YouTube filters. Not that we condone that either.
Of course not. Exploiting lawyers is not in anyone's best interest at all.
Anyway, I was going to say that the link I have here is the actual show that I did watch. It's from 2015. It's called Dancing in the Dark: The End of Physics. And it's fascinating because a number of really interesting scientists who are still real live people who have been looking at, they're like the Sheldon and the Leonards in real life, right? They kind of watch this stuff and they check it out. They talk about it. So definitely check out this episode if you're interested. You can watch the YouTube link, or if you can find it on BBC, I would definitely basically recommend that to you. So my second pick is I'm going to be as little spoilerish as I can. So I happened to be off today because I had booked my vacation. I had to move it around and ended up being off today. And I thought to myself, as I'm sitting there at home last night with nothing to do, nothing really important to do, that I thought, I could go see a movie. So I just fired up the Cineplex app and looked on and checked out.
No checking in with the fam, just doing your own thing. That's fine.
Were you off today?
I was not off today, but I functioned on,
Yeah, so I was actually looking at the noon o'clock show today, the 12 o'clock show, which I probably should have gone to because there were some pretty sleepy parts in this movie.
Oh, yeah?
And guess what I ended up doing? Because I went to the 10:45 show, which ended at 1:30, right? So I happen to have a theater near me that, I happened to look and I saw on the 10:45 show that there was, my favorite row in the theater in this particular IMAX is the top row. And there was enough space between me and there was enough space in between two sets of seats that I could basically comfortably sit. And I'm fairly familiar with the theater, so I feel confident that I can get in and out. I mean, the parking's underneath the theater. You go up, a giant escalator, and it's like you're not going to be exposed to people for very long. If you basically get your seat. And I got to say, the weirdest thing about it was, and we talked about this a little bit last week, we're now in sort of a higher threat level COVID thing where you only have 50% occupancy in the entire building. So there was no food or drink, which was really strange. I don't think I have ever been to a movie where I did not, have a pop or something in my hand, ever. So that was a very strange feeling, sort of sitting there in a movie theater and not munching on something, right? yeah, so I went and saw Matrix Resurrections yesterday, and because I just, it's just bugging me. It's like I just wanted to see it, right? So, I highly recommend, if you're going to go see this movie, that you watch the 1999 Matrix movie before you go, because if you don't have it fresh in your mind, they do flash a lot of the show, a lot of that. It's obviously built on built upon that original movie. You could watch the whole series, but the trilogy, I find personally, I find it trying and long and unnecessary. There is one character, if you have not seen the trilogy, you won't know who that person is, but it's not a retelling. Like, I don't think it's spoilerific to say that in the Matrix we find out in the lore that Neo has lived a number of times, and he's tried over and over and over again, like almost like a video game, and keeps getting reset to go and solve this particular problem, right? And so that's kind of where the movie starts from, is that sort of that theory. And then, you can ask yourself questions. If you watch the third movie, there's obviously one glaringly obvious question that they do address in this movie, which is really good. But yeah, I don't want to say too much about it, like in terms of that. That's my hard recommendation, is go see that. Really interesting outro. The outro music from Rage Against the Machine is the song "Wake Up," which is one of the songs I like by them a lot. Mm-hmm. There's a cover band called Brass Against, right? And they do Rage Against the Machine covers using brass instruments. And an amazing singer. She sounds just like is it Zach? Is his name?
Zach, yeah.
Yeah, she sounds like Zach. Like, she's not quite exactly like him, but she's got the same intonation, the same attitude, and that kind of stuff. I don't know her name, unfortunately. I'll get it for next week. But yeah, if nothing else, just I'll put a link in the show notes here to that track. But yeah, that's the movie obviously ends on that, because it's the same song that the original movie ends on too. Yeah, and it's got some really interesting twists and turns in it. It's got, some people come from all three. There's characters from all three movies, and the take on. They catch you up a lot on as you go through the movie, on tons of Easter eggs, tons of stuff that in this movie. If you're a Matrix fan, for you, it's like, it's almost, they almost become running jokes in a sense, right? Nobody's laughing, by the way. It's not meant to be funny, but there are some pretty good callbacks for sure. So that's all I'm going to say. I am, and yeah, I don't know that you could really see this movie in one sitting and really get it all,
So you're in for a rewatch?
Oh, I'm in for a rewatch. Yeah, definitely. If I had to do a scale, like in terms of movies, like in terms of, how you can sort of say, you can either say New Hope or you can say Empire as 1 and 2, or one interchangeably, and then you go through the other movies, and like Phantom Menace, obviously, or Attack of the Clones is probably at the very bottom of the base there, right?
Oh yeah.
I would put this as number 2 in the Matrix. Quadrilogy? What do you call it?
It's quadrology, theoretically, if there's 4 of them.
Quadrology. Yeah. Well, there's 5 actually, because the
Animatrix,
right?
yeah.
Animatrix, right?
Yeah.
I would put this as number 2 easily.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty interesting. Like, you could watch this on its own. If you had never seen any Matrix, I think you could watch this and still sort of get, the down the rabbit hole kind of deal, right? So
yeah. Well, I'm definitely curious to watch that one. Yeah, I guess that's my question. My follow-up question for you is, so you've gone to the theater. We talked last week about people using their own discretion. You obviously, you looked at the circumstances. You made the call. Did you feel more or less safe? And we should say, for the record, you are also boosted. So you had your third shot. You're triple vaxxed.
Apparently it's funny. Let me just say this. I keep hearing about people who are triple vaxxed getting Omicron, and I responded to a tweet today on Twitter, and I just want to put it out there for people, because it seems to be that I get the sense that people think that getting vaccinated is like getting a force field.
Yeah.
And my analogy is, no, it's like getting a seatbelt.
Yeah.
You're going to get in a car crash, but you're less likely to go through the windshield is the difference.
But you also have to that means you still have to stop at the lights and take a look both ways and not just go into the world blind.
If you're in an accident at 70 miles an hour wearing a seatbelt, you're going to end up in the hospital, right? But if you're in an accident and you don't wear a seatbelt and you're going to end up going through the windshield, you're not going to go to the hospital.
You're going to go to the morgue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. pretty much. And we proved that through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you know. So if you really want to, go and check the science on that,
yeah,
have a look.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from that point of view, though, John, like I said, like I know that, like, it's me in my car. I go to the place. I get in the, get close, park close to the door. The doors are all open. You walk in. There's no touching doorknobs and stuff like that. You show your passport at the beginning, like your fax passport. You basically, once you get there, you interact with, like, within proximity of other people, only to show your ticket and your vaccine information, right? Mm-hmm. And then, since there's no food, nobody's eating, and where I was sitting, I'm far enough away from the rest of the madding crowd, as it were, and it's a large enough space. I mean, like, it's practically outdoors in terms of how big the room is, right? So, yeah, I felt safe.
Cool.
I didn't like wearing my mask the entire time, but I felt safe.
Yeah, and again, that's where, I mean, I know I didn't see the runtime on Matrix, but I know the new Spider-Man movie is long, so it not being able to wet your whistle and not being able to have a snack would be a little bit odd. But
and not needing to pee, though, in the middle of the movie, that was a bonus.
Like, honestly, I don't know. There's not enough. It's a weird combination, because obviously when you go to the movies, you get a certain amount of drink to offset the popcorn, because the popcorn's salty, you gotta have something to drink. But the problem is, if you get too much drink, then either you drink it all, and, your mouth stays nice and comfortable, whatever, but then you need to go to the bathroom halfway through, which just does not work. Or you don't drink enough, at which point, or, it leaves some over, at which point you have some left at the end, which point it's warm and awful and you don't want it, and you might not have enough to satisfy the popcorn you've had, but then at least you don't have to go to the bathroom, and it's like, what if you're eating different food? Like, again, it's hard. It's a hard debate. So at least not having to think about that, you go in and just sort of sit there, and your mouth stays sort of neutral. Like, but again, I don't think I could go for like 3 hours without drinking water. That sounds pretty awful. I don't know.
Yeah, but coming back to this, this is 2.5 hours long, or a little bit over 2 hours. But the reality is that, it's not like a Marvel movie. There's not like a break in the middle where you can go have a pee. Like, there isn't. Yeah. Not this one. There's a lot. The reason why I want to go back and watch again, because, obviously there are nuances that I missed. Like, I'm not going to say any more than that, but there are a lot of details. The one thing that's funny, though, I was thinking about this as I was watching the movie, or watching some of the stuff, is like, is it just me, or does the real world seem like the fantasy part?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something as sort of hyper realistic and possibly plausible, like the Matrix, kind of hits you hard when you're in the perpetual Groundhog's Day that is 2020, 2021, and probably 2022.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I mean, like, in the movie, in the context of the movie, like the actual in the movie part, right? Like, originally the part was shot in the late 90s, so it made sense there. There were some, like I mentioned last week, there's some technology that was, like, already out of date in the Matrix, right? But in the 1999 version. But in this one too, like, when they get into the real world and you see, the what do you call those, skitters or whatever, and the floating hovercraft shippy things, and that's it's sort of modern, it's like 100 years or 200 years in the future kind of deal, right? This one takes place, because I think the Matrix takes place 100 years in the future, right? And then this one is another 80 or so years more. So yeah, it's almost 200 years in the future from where we are today. So I guess it's plausible that, everybody drives electric cars and stuff like that,
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about in the real world when they've woken up, right? So
yeah. They don't have those cool little pop-up phones that they had in the first one?
No.
Scandalous.
I won't talk about that. I'm not going to spoil it.
All right. Good. Don't spoil it. All right. I've got a couple things for the watch list. So the first thing I have is Slugfest. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I cannot figure out where this is airing in Canada, but I do have a link in here to the trailer that you can watch. If you are one of our listeners in the United States or elsewhere, you can probably find it. It was supposed to originally air on Quibi, for those of you who are mourning the long loss of Quibi. It is now, I think, airing on Roku. And so if you have a Roku, you can watch it there. The premise of Slugfest is basically a look at the long-running feud, for lack of a better term, between DC Comics and Marvel Comics. The fact that, they were the sort of battle of the Titans, their characters versus our characters, who would win in a fight, Hulk and Superman. All of that is being examined in this docuseries exploring the sort of evolution of the comic book wars and where they've gone and this whole thing. And it is hosted by Kevin Smith. So I heard him speak about it the other day on one of his podcasts. It sounded really interesting. I checked out the trailer. It actually looks really cool. I do not know where it's going to air here in Canada, but I'm hoping that we can find it somewhere because it does look really quite interesting. And obviously, as a longtime comic reader and comic fan, I lived through those things. There were people who were like very, very, very ardently in one camp or the other. Like they would, I'd never read that stupid trash, and vice versa to the other ones. People were really entrenched for a long time back when I was a kid and a teenager, particularly back into the 80s and 90s. People were really in these camps of like, my characters are better than your characters. My character could be your character, and it's interesting that somebody's finally going to sort of take a look at that long. This is a feud that went on for 50 years. I think we can all declare Marvel the winner now, but still, it is always a topic of discussion. So yeah, it looks really cool. I recommend checking out the trailer, and if you're in the States, you should check it out. If you have Roku, check it out, and hopefully we'll find out. If I get information, I'll mention it here on the pod. We can see if we can find it here for our Canadian listeners. The other thing that I had here is what I was alluding to earlier about the other thing we'll have to talk about next week, which is Book of Boba Fett is coming to Disney Plus on the 29th. So we are done our season of Hawkeye, but we have but 7 days from that to be able to go ahead and watch the next live action Star Wars series focusing on everybody's favorite masked Mandalorian bounty hunter. And yeah, it looks, then they dropped another trailer. There's been a whole bunch of preview stuff popping up. It looks amazing. I'm dying to see what they do with this. And it'll be, just on the cusp of making it here in 2021. So we can all check that out. And I think we'll probably have a little chat about that on next week's episode. Xavier, do you want to talk about your pick?
Is this something that I can... I don't know, obviously there's a new Grand Tour thing. Is that off topic? I know you guys talk about Big Mouth and stuff like that. Is that... Oh,
I think as a work of fiction, I'd say you can go ahead and bring that in because it's definitely fits.
I talk about the Beatles on Get Back and stuff like that.
It's just okay.
It is definitely a work of fantasy at times. Having watched it, but you go ahead. Yeah, let's share your pick.
All right, so my pick for this week is a new special from the Grand Tour. Jeremy Clarkson, James May, Richard Hammond, the original three from Top Gear. A new special, Carnage à Trois, basically just making fun of France for an hour or whatever, but it's absolutely hilarious. They catapult a car across to France, they blow up a lot of things, they roll some cars down hills. It's classic hilarity. I had a blast watching it. I definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Top Gear, the Grand Tour, any of those three. Just cars in general. France. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you want to watch it if you're a fan of France. True, they do take a lot of liberties. From France. The parking scene, my God. Particularly a memorable scene where at one point Richard Hammond in a compact car shows you how to park properly in France, which involves ramming the other cars out of the way until you make yourself a space.
This is just how you park in France.
And then they decide to go and take their regular cars for a climb up one of the Welsh mountainsides. Oh, yes. Very funny. Yeah, they definitely always have a good time. It's nice that they're still doing those shows amidst the pandemic.
Yeah, and again,
especially considering they're getting old.
Yeah, and again, there's a couple callbacks to previous things they've done from Grand Tour and Top Gear. It's good. Definitely recommend it.
And where can they find that?
Well, it's streaming on Amazon Prime Video. I think everywhere. It's an Amazon production, so I don't believe it's anywhere else. So Amazon Prime Video.
That's true. All right, I have one more thing before we go. I keep forgetting about this. So I talked about this a couple of weeks ago called Center Seat, probably 4 weeks ago when I first saw it. And the first episode was about how Lucille Ball's Desilu saved Star Trek from the bin. because she paid for the show. But I happened to watch last week's episode. I forgot to. It's narrated by Gates McFadden. Last week's show was really interesting because it was about the next generation, and and I know a lot of people, especially on this podcast, are fans of that show. And interesting to sort of hear from the insiders, the cast, about how Wesley hated the sweaters he had to wear. Or sorry, not Wesley, but the actor playing Will Wheaton. He hated wearing those sweaters, and he at one point he said he got this unitard that he had to wear a muscle suit underneath it, and. Yeah, it was, and then of course they talked about the tunic, the one piece or the lighter one piece that they had, and all the how it made them all hunch over when they sat down, and Patrick Stewart started the thing with the Picard maneuver, which is the pulling the shirt back down when you sit.
Yeah, when they went to the two.
Started that. Yeah, then they went to the two-piece, but he continued to do that same thing, right? So that became the Picard, known as Picard maneuver, when you sit down and you straighten your tunic.
That's not when
right?
you palm your face, is you? No. The face
no,
palm?
that's called the face palm.
Okay.
But yeah, but really interesting, and also Gates McFadden talks about how and why she left the show and how she came back, and then as well, Maria Muldaur talks about how
we talked about this.
Diana Muldaur. Right, yeah. The other one's a singer. Well, the other one's a singer. Like these things burned into your head. You can't get away from it.
Go Gates McFadden, whatever.
Diana Muldaur talks about how she, played Dr. Jelansky, whatever, and how it was modeled after McCoy. And then she said, she talked about the fact that she was happy to leave the show at the end of it. But on all the sort of like, who were the people behind the show, writing the show and that kind of stuff, and how they got involved. And at one point, like, Gene Roddenberry's lawyer was one of the writers on the show, like, all the sort of weird maneuvers that they made, and the writer's strike in the middle of the production and all that kind of stuff. So really fascinating show. This week is about, the week coming up, next week is about Q.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that I want to go back and watch from tonight, which is, I just PBR'd while we're doing this show today, is about Star Trek going to the movies, so all the movies that they made. So it's fascinating if you're into Star Trek and you want to hear from the horse's mouth, as it were, the stories behind the show. It's really fascinating to see and hear. Like, apparently, if they hadn't booked 2 years worth of Star Trek from the get-go, they probably would have got canceled in the first year. It was that bad.
Huh.
Right? They even addressed the the third episode where they have it's like a donkey of love or something like that, and Tasha Yar has to fight another woman.
Yes.
Yes.
That was pretty terrible. There's some terrible first season episodes.
Yeah, and all the crew sort of says, like, I can't believe they're asking us to do this, and we can't believe that this show is still on the air after this episode, right? That's funny. And then what was the other one they addressed? And the tar pit thing where Denise Crosby decides that she wants to leave the show because she said, can you not just get a cardboard cutout of my legs and put them behind Patrick Stewart's chair? Because, like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Because that's all you ever see of me, right? Anyway, so that's why she decided to leave the show. And then they go into why Gates McFadden left the show as well. But and also the Star Trek Next Generation would have failed the Bechdel test because, they rarely ever had the women in more than one woman in any scene in the first series, right? Or first couple of seasons, right? They talk about that as well. So it's interesting sort of exploration in Star Trek. It's called the center seat. I keep thinking captain's chair, but it's not the center seat. So check that out.
Yeah, I saw that
right, like
come up on my Crave listing. It looked, it's I guess it must be airing on CTV Sci-Fi, or is it just on Crave? Yeah,
it's on CTV Sci-Fi, and actually I just noticed as I was looking this up while you guys were doing your thing that CTV has an iPad app, and I can log in there and watch Discovery and anything else that's on CTV as well, including all the space stuff, right?
Nice.
Including this show, Center Seat. All right, so I guess that's it for another week. So, Jonathan, if people can get in touch with you, how can they find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram as @JPKNews.
And Xavier, if people want to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as Xman_1664.
All right. And my name is Tim Mitra, TIMMITRA, and the Twitter machine is where you'll find me. Until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. This is Jean-Luc Picard. Shut up, Wesley. Sorry, say again? Just the tag. Gotcha. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spockcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpockcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
How's it going?
How's it going? How's that work coming on the supercut?
Oh, I'm not doing it. I went back and found the first one.
I know, the first one made me laugh. You put it up on our Slack channel. That made me laugh really loud. It's like...
But it's funny. Yeah, it's funny.
And, we got some guy here. His name is Jaime Lopez. How's it going?
Yeah.
It's just his same...
Like right from the get-go, yeah. The sultry tones.
He found his groove early.
Yeah, I think he probably had that one ready. He probably had they can. Yeah, he's that's his sign on, right? So yeah. That's how you know it's him. I'm sure you can probably fool his Google Home into letting you in by saying how's it going. So
if you say howdy at the start, do you say goodbye-dee at the end? Howdy? Goodbye-dee? No,
just goodbye. Why would you say?
I don't know.
What's
the goodbye version of howdy?
When I was younger, about your age, I used to say "see you later" all the time. See you later. That's why I never say goodbye.
Bye,
see you later.
I always like that. I think the most beautiful way to say goodbye is the French "au revoir" until I see you again.
Au revoir.
That's such a beautiful sentiment. Au revoir until I see you again. Yeah, I just think that's so much nicer than like goodbye.
Well, maybe we should start saying au revoir on the show then.
Oh, well. I think we've done enough damage to the French language for one season.
Enjoy the next 24 hours.
We even did today. Carnage à toi.
Carnage à toi.
Do they say it that way on the show?
They do some stereotyping in there, but their French is ce n'est pas bon.
C'est
très stupide.
All right. Are we doing it again?
Yeah, we might be going down that road again.
Bon voyage.
We're going to get blocked in Quebec if we keep it up.
There goes our French listener.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one of them.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, how many of our listeners are French or do speak French at all? How many of our listeners speak a language other than English? Feel free to let us know. Message us, hashtag AskSpockcast.
Well, we have some statistics that we get from this. Let's see. So our listeners, we have unique lift. We have approximately 45, which we've gone down since we started. But I can tell you that, like, the majority of our audience is the United States, and then Canadian, Australian. Yeah, we have some German listeners. Probably the Kuehlein connection, I'm sure.
Maybe.
And then then we have less and less and less and less. We have some Chinese listeners, some Singapore, Philippines, Taiwan. Maybe they're just here for the Star Trek, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But not very many. Like less, like not enough. Oh, actually, you can click on the link here and find out where they. Ooh. We have we have somebody in Leinster in Ireland, and Munster and Connaught.
Oh.
Let's see. Where you're looking? I have nothing in French or over here. Interesting. Oh, if I hit Canada, maybe I can get Quebec. Let's see. Oh, we have 4% of our audience is in Quebec. That is one person.
Well, then we apologize for our damage to the language, and if you happen to be an Anglophone living there, it's probably for the best.
Yeah. Well, we have less than 1% of people in New Brunswick. That's probably Jen, right? So, and she's bilingual, so
yeah.
But does she actually listen to the show, or she just wanted the T-shirt?
I don't know. Do you remember, Zave? Chloe and I know they have listened to episodes. I don't know if they're regular listeners.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we could follow up on that, but yeah. Always need more listeners.
They just wanted that sweet Spockcast
free merch is always the best. I mean,
yeah. Mm-hmm. That being said, I wanted to mention this. So when Xavier
is there chip swag?
Is there chip swag? There's no chip swag right now, unfortunately. Your probably on it. We should probably have some by now, but
I want Alex as like a chipmunk, like photoshopped onto a chipmunk on a t-shirt. I would totally buy that.
I will get to work on that right away. Our host Alex would make an excellent chipmunk. Xavier was getting ready to start his new job. We went out and did some shopping, and he was in the change room at the store trying on some new clothes.
Looking snazzy.
As he came out, looking snazzy. As he came out to show me a pair of pants he tried on, he was wearing just his Spotcast t-shirt on the top, and another guy was standing there waiting to go and try out something in the change room, and he started to say something to Xavier, but Xavier had just ducked into the change room, and he was like, "Oh, that's I wanted to ask that guy about his like Star Trek shirt. Is he like?" And I said, "Oh yeah, actually that's the podcast that we work on weekly." And he's like, "Oh, I have a Star Trek podcast too. I've always wanted to meet another Star Trek podcaster." So
and what's the name of his show?
The name of his show is called Yelling About Star Trek, and the young man's name is Chris Fox. And you can find him in the same places you find our podcasts.
We'll have a link in the show notes.
He definitely, I've listened to a couple episodes so far. I must admit, I haven't listened to all of it, but he basically said, his family was sick of him talking about Star Trek because they don't get it. And so he decided to start doing his own podcast. So he's got about, I think he just put his 39th episode up this month. And he just does it solo and talks about all kinds of different sort of perspectives on Star Trek and how it fits into pop culture and how it fits into different things, why things are his favorites and what works and stuff. But yeah, it's nice to meet another Trek podder. And if you're dying for more Star Trek content, check out Chris Fox's Yelling About Star Trek.
Nice.
And if people would like to purchase Star Trek Spotcast Hollow stickers, where can they find those?
They're not for sale, but you can just let us know.
We will personally mail them to you if you really want to rep us.
The number one fan can autograph one if you'd like.
Just a big
Can
red
they get a game
X
worn
on the middle
jersey?
of it.
Can they get the shirt you were wearing in the change room?
I mean, it's actually you can tell it's mine because it's got a tear on the back of it, like from where the dog tried to
one of the dogs. Yeah, one of the dogs.
Is it the blue one or the green one?
No, it's the blue one. The green one is truly one of a kind. It's the only one that color.
It is.
Yeah.
It was custom made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say. What was I gonna say? Yeah, you can get podcast stuff. We'll have a link in the show notes. But if you head over to our MTJC/Teespring page, you can get yourself some podcast swag as well.
Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we post new episodes of the podcast for you to listen to, which may or may not have additional video content? Question mark.
There's a video episode of the.
All right, well there you go.
Yeah. Oh, we could have done a video episode this week because Jaime's on the show.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Oh, well, sorry, folks.
Maybe next time. Yeah, we got a natural born seller here. This kid's going places. It's good. It's good to remember.
It's all that fine name redacted training.
That's right. It's right. Plug in the merch. And where can people go for all their toilet needs, Xavier?
I don't think I'm allowed to legally disclose that. You can go to wherever the toilets are found near you. Visit your local toilet mart.
Yes.
Nice.
How much do you want to bet there's an actual store called Toilet Mart somewhere?
He said as three people all started Googling Toilet Mart.
I'm just just gonna do it right now. Toilet Mart. Toilet Mart. Nope. Plumbing Mart. Faucet Mart.
Well, if you decide to go on your own, if you learn so much that you have to go independent, you got your name picked out already.
I don't know if you're allowed to talk about other places that sell toilets now that you're gainfully employed by name redacted.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the fact that I'm gainfully employed by name redacted. I mean, I guess, yeah.
I don't think it matters.
Just bleep it out when it comes in. It's going to make it sound like he works somewhere untoward.
Yes, I work for the government. Bleep.
Hey, Xavier, say as plain and monotone as you can, name disclosed.
Name disclosed.
Is that what I should say? No, not name disclosed. Or name redacted. How about
redacted?
Name redacted.
Name redacted.
Thank you. Okay.
I was just going to have sometimes someone sends me text, just name redacted.
Yep. Name redacted.
Yeah. I used to put little bleepy noises in the podcast, but my other co-hosts used to complain about that, right?
Well,
Like Tammy used to have like a clink-clonk noise that whenever she transitioned from one, like if she did like a rough edit from one place to another, she'd just do clink-clonk, and then you knew that the thread was changing, right? I never bothered with that. I just let people just hang on, folks.
It's a free-flowing conversation. That's what we do here.
Yeah, pretty much. It is pretty much. It's a lot easier to edit than the other show. The other one's very technical, so we tend up having to correct ourselves. And I think that means Mac wants the show to end.
No,
I'm pretty sure. Can you hear that?
Indeed.
Yeah, he doesn't often howl, but that was a howl.
So if there's like 3 seats to any particular showing of something, you let us know.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Like which theater though? I mean, because don't forget I'm transportationally challenged.
Wherever there's the least people, I would say that's my sort of criteria. As long as I'm like farthest away from other people, I probably would consider it.
Well, I mean, like so the rows in the rows in the IMAX at Scotia are easily like they're a good 3-4 feet away from the they're tighter in the theaters you guys go to.
Yeah.
Right. And
but then there's more rows, so you can get more like row distance too. So it's I guess. Like when I looked at 12 o'clock today, like I should have gone to 12 o'clock today, considering I nodded off a couple of important scenes, but because when they were like the slow scenes are when they explain everything, right? Mm-hmm.
Because there's a scene with Jada Pinkett Smith where she goes on to like some big explanation. About,
Spoilers.
Yeah. You didn't know she was in the movie?
Just spoil. People explain things in the movie. Oh my god, I don't know. It was a joke.
How dare they?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, like there is some. What do you call it? What do you call it? Projected? Is it projecting scenes or there's stuff that's early on and you're like,
Oh yeah, where they
forecast.
Yeah, what do you call it? No, drawing a blank.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
I know.
I think that there's enough of those little threads in there. Telegraphing. Yeah, there's a couple of I mean, if you look in the trailer, there's some telegraphing in there, right?
Mm-hmm, foreshadowing. Foreshadowing.
There's some interesting sort of twists on it. Yeah, definitely. But if you can, I mean, take a minute and watch the original movie first.
I've seen it already. I'd be happy to watch it again.
It's seared into my brain.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say so too, but I found it like when I like I said last week, I watch it when it's on, right? But I never actually sat down and watched it from end to end, But having forced to see it in the IMAX, you can't really go anywhere or pause or put it on fast forward or go grab a snack or whatever, So I sat there and absorbed it all, and then because it was big, giant in my face, I caught a lot more detail than I normally do when I just scan it on TV.
Which is why I recommend people buy bigger TVs. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, my TV's big.
Your TV's smaller.
I don't sit as far away from my TV as you guys do.
Okay, but you're sitting closer to it. Both of your TVs are too small. Seriously.
No.
Yeah.
No.
There's only six seats sold so far for the 3D showing at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning of Spider-Man at the theater next to Square One.
I don't want to see it in 3D though. I'm over 3D. It's annoying, and it's like I don't really want things on my face. It's like
All right, but IMAX is sort of.
Yeah, but it's annoying when they obviously they film something in 3D and
Yeah.
And you're not looking right at it. So what, Spider-Man you said?
Yeah, I'm just taking a quick look through the Cineplex app to see if any of them have like good seat emptiness.
Spider-Man. I don't know what the car availability will be tomorrow.
Car losses.
Spider-Man. Show more theaters. I got to do that. So
Your dog sounds very unhappy.
Yeah, I got to go check it. Oh, Cinemax. It's down way down at the bottom.
So sorry, just to be clear.
It's in IMAX.
You saw.
Yeah, but there's tons of seats sold already. That's the problem. I don't want to go to a crowded IMAX theater. I want to go to like something where I've got a little bit of a bubble.
Oh yeah, no. I had distance between me and the people next to me. That's my criteria.
That's sort of where I'm at. Again, I'm a little leery about going to the movies in the first place, but I need some space. I don't think I could handle sitting 2 hours in a movie theater with people who pull their face masks down and whatever. No, 11:45, I think it was.
11 a.m. 11 a.m.
Yeah, 3D at 11. There's like
nobody sitting there. And 2:30. My favorite story was when I bought a Zappa box set I got it from the States actually, and I called Amazon because back then you couldn't return online. So I called them, and the woman said, "Oh, like one of the songs I really wanted was skipping on the CD, right?" And so she said, and I tried it in different players and did the same thing, right? So she said, "Well, we'll send you another one right away," and they did. And then she said, "But just hang on to that one. Just don't, it's going to be too much hassle to send it back."
Yeah, I've done that before too with it. If it's something small like a book or whatever, and I've actually heard people. I'm on a few different forums online for like collectors and stuff like that. They've had Indigo and Amazon and that basically say like, you may as well just keep the book or do whatever you want with it, because there's especially for those like omnibus books and stuff like that, like it's going to cost them more in return delivery than it's worth to show the scratch on it.
Yeah, and then what they do though is they just put them in a skid and sell the skid.
Yeah,
right?
remainders, right?
Yeah, like I bought the drum set I bought last year. One of the drums didn't work. Obviously, it was returned for a reason, and some guy bought it, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know it was used." And like fuck, you didn't know it was used. He runs a business out of his like house, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, like that. We'll see you guys
Happy
next
holidays
time.
from Spotcast. Hope you all have a merry Christmas if that's something you do, and if you don't, then Happy New Year eventually.
Happy holidays. You just say that.
I guess so. Are we doing a December 31st Christmas New Year's Eve Spotcast?
Yes.
Is that?
Oh,
no,
right.
it's
the
day before. It's the 30th.
This is the 24th.
What do you mean we? Right?
Listen, Jaime Jr.
Ciao.
All right. See ya.
Bye, howdy.
Gear Patrol calls their new dive watch the best sub-$500 dive watch. Full stop. Men's Health rated them as the most stylish solar watch in the game. Who are we talking about? It's Movement. They're leveling up your gift giving with the sleekest watches you can buy and the biggest deals of the season. Shop 30 to 50% off Movement's innovative California clean watches, jewelry, and accessories with fast free shipping and returns now at mvmt.com. That's mvmt.com.